Hi, this is the Philosophical Angle program, and I'm your host, Chris Angle. I'm the author of 4 books on philosophy, one of which is The Philosophical Equations of Economics. And if you'd like to contact us, when you after you see the video, hit the comment section on below, or and hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Along with me is my colleague and co-host, Rick Samuelson. Rick graduated from Yale and has MBAs from Tufts and Wharton, and he's an independent venture capitalist out on the West Coast. Good to see you, Rick.
And you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And the purpose of the philosophical angle is to examine the concepts and ideas in current media. And one of the things that's kind of been happening recently is Silicon Valley and the censorship. And so we got to ask ourselves, why does the Silicon Valley censor conservatives? And the obvious answer is, of course, that they've become liberal leftists, and liberal leftists don't want certain people of society to have certain thoughts. Read 1984, perhaps. So we ask ourselves why, and it's because they are advocates of controlling society. And why is that? Well, it's because of 5 principles of the political philosophy of the leftist society, and we're going to get into that in a little bit, but first we need to make comment on the origin of political societies, and so we have to go all the way back in order to understand that there really are all political parties and all their variations come from 2 sources in history. One is the kings and queens, or the chieftains of tribes, and because you have ones that have who have evolved upward in society, and then you have the have-nots, the people that work for the chieftains, the workers, the serfs, the people that work for the kings and queens of society, the proletariats and the slaves, and and the proletariats and slaves, these individuals act upon the first dictum of life, which is that all life seeks that which is good for it, and continually seeks that which is good for it. And additionally, they seek equality before the law in pursuing this first dictum of life, which is to say that they strive for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so that's one segment of society, the worker, the serf, the proletariat. And on the other side are the kings and the queens of throughout history for the last 5,000 years. You have and we're going to call those the haves, because they have everything of society, because they take everything from the serfs, from the slaves, and use it for their own good, and while they seek goodness for themselves. And as society grows and becomes more complicated, and as commerce grows, the kings and queens needed nobles, and as society even grew even larger, the nobles needed their associates, facilitators, a group of facilitators as the government grew. And in modern days democracies and modern day societies, the nobles and associates are replaced with the government bureaucrats. And in addition to government bureaucrats, the corporate management is included in those facilitators, and they are all needed in order to control the have-nots. And these are in modern day society, these have-nots are the people who show up for work and pay taxes, and their taxes go to supporting the government bureaucracy and the kings and queens, which are really now called the president and vice president in modern day society. And they do this because of control. They need control in order to take your tax, your hard work away from you in the form of taxes. And so the haves can be controlling because they believe that the nature of the people that work, the serfs, the proletariats, is that they're inherently bad people. And so the lefts have the view of those who are not leftists that they are inherently, by their nature, those people are bad. And some of the haves believe that the have-nots are bad because they are also not of the social class of the haves. And you can look through history and see how the kings and queens have always looked down upon the slaves and serfs of their societies, and they've always had to look down upon them. And then the second reason that the haves view society is that they believe that these people are inherently bad. So for these two reasons, they look down upon the lower echelon of society, and these facilitators, the bureaucrats, etc., control the have-nots through motivation, in addition to regulations and through they also control them through negative knowledge, and negative knowledge plus force equals control. And examples of negative knowledge are the rules and regulations and laws of society. And the example of motivation is giving people welfare so they don't have to work in exchange for their vote and loyalty, which the haves have done in society. And the haves will think that they are providing and should provide a social network for the have-nots, and from this belief was born the concept in the 1800s of noblesse oblige, and societies, leftist societies, have incorporated this into their political views. And you just have to look back at the communists and the fascists and the socialists and the kings and queens of all throughout history, and from this you can see that they have evolved the concept of noblesse oblige, but there are 5 principles that the haves need, 5 principles of political philosophy that we should point out here. And these are: 1, the noblesse oblige. That's the first one, and then the dictum that we mentioned, that the law of the good, that all of life looks to gather that which is good for them. And then, but now we have to add in the Lord Acton principle, that absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this is used by the left because, well, it's not really used by them. This is a consequence that they've become corrupted in their mind, because when they get absolute control over society, it interrupts the necessity of them to cooperate with anybody else in society. And so the kings and queens of society never had to cooperate with the have-nots. And when they don't have to cooperate with anybody, like the kings and queens or Stalin or Mao Zedong, they become corrupted in their mind, as Lord Acton pointed out, because they didn't have to have cooperation. And when you don't have cooperation, you don't need respect. And if you don't need respect, you look down upon others and think of their value of them is very little. And so this corruption of thought happens as control of society increases. And now we have to add in one more principle, and we're going to add St. Augustine's principle of libido dominandi, which means that always somebody comes to dominate others, and there's a will to dominate by by people, and as you all have to do is look through history and see the justification for that. Always kings and queens rise to the top, and and then the last we've already mentioned the last principle, which was that the have-nots are inherently not good people, and so looking upon these principles, we can see that the haves will tend to control the have-nots, and this oppression of the have-nots will get worse over time. And so there are some that who do not submit to control of the have-nots, and they do not want to be serfdoms, be serfs for the rest of their life, and they don't want to be slaves for the rest of their lives, and they want to, and as a worker bee, they want to get better, and they employ the first dictum of life to get better and to seek more goodness, and they want to pop out of being in the lower echelon of society, and they try to break out. But the left looks at this, and they want to prevent this by, and they will prevent this by controlling the have-nots. And one way to control is to limit the knowledge available to the have-nots, which is effectuated by limiting free speech, which is being done gratis by the big tech companies as they have graduated and become members of the facilitator class and of the class of the haves. And you can see that that this necessary control of the have-nots means that they'll want to keep everybody in society, everybody equal, and so that there are not anybody who pops out and becomes the facilitator class, and that's why they want to limit your knowledge and keep everybody down. Rick, what do you think of this? Is this what do you think about the free speech problem of the society, the Silicon Valley people limiting free speech in our society presently?
Well, let's recall how we arrived here. Had it not been for the pandemic, it's inconceivable that we could have reached the point where Silicon Valley writ large would censor not only the president but also the conservative platform and, frankly, a bunch of others. The left has found, the perfect tool to exert control. And as we look out into, frankly, the near-term future, I can't imagine they wouldn't go back to that tool again and again. This notion that the pandemic's going to end in the next few months is, I think, misplaced hope. The current version of the pandemic may end, but surely it will transmogrify into something else, perhaps a new variant, perhaps a new strain. I don't know what form it's going to take, but they have found the magic bullet for exerting control over a society to a degree we really haven't seen before. Maybe not since the Civil War have basic civil liberties like the writ of habeas corpus been suspended. So we're seeing a replay of measures taken during an all-out war, which is astonishing, and it's all happened extremely quickly, to the point where I think those who would resist are still trying to find their feet and fully understand what has happened and what is about to happen. I think they have put forward a broad agenda, at least in principle, that allows them to take unconstitutional measures for the foreseeable future. And there are two planks to this that give them a freedom of movement, frankly, that they didn't have before. One is this notion of modern monetary theory, where deficits don't matter. So the notion of a budget is irrelevant in that kind of context. The government can raise as much money as it wants to do whatever it wants, the assumption being that the U.S. credit, the credit of the United States, will always remain AAA, and arguably the best credit in the world. Now, that in time that will be tested, right? Britain once had the key currency and best credit rating and dominant currency, and that all went by the wayside. So things change. But for the foreseeable future, the fact that this is an operating principle for the left gives them enormous power. Now, combine that with the fact that the use of national security and terrorism laws is already being discussed with respect to any opponents of Biden and company, and you have the perfect mix for being able to spend as much money as you want for all the programs you want, and the ability to shut down any opposition, whether it's in print, online, by way of assembly, by way of going to church. All of these basic freedoms have been challenged and are going to continue to be challenged. So we have before us, it appears, an extremely toxic mix of policies that inevitably will provoke resistance. What form that resistance takes remains to be seen. That there will be violent elements of it is almost certain. But the United States is now entering uncharted waters, at least uncharted in a way that we haven't seen for generations.
If ever.
Right.
So basically you're saying that COVID and terrorism is going to be used as a tool by which further control over society will be perfected?
Yes.
And how fast do you think?
More COVID alarms. Why would they ever drop it?
However, commerce will be slowed down. Is that not a concern for the Democrats?
No. The reason it's not a concern is they can borrow and spend as much as they want. So I can easily see deficits throughout this current presidential term of 1, 2, 3, 4 trillion.
And what will this do?
They have to pay people not to work, right?
And will this not affect the stock market?
Of course.
How so?
Well, as they increase taxes, that is another plank. That's the fig leaf in all of this, and it's their bid to pretend to be fiscally responsible as they raise taxes, whether it's in the form of income taxes or capital gains taxes, whatever it is. Cash flow is going to be reduced. Asset prices must fall.
Okay. Very interesting, and more of this in coming weeks. I think that'll come on this program. So thanks for that, Rick. And if you thought this program was of value, hit the subscribe button and the like button. Thanks very much, and we'll see everybody very soon on the Philosophical Angle.
Thank you. you.